How do we begin sort of making sense of that dynamic? Because otherwise, again, we'll be talking in half a decade, half a century, a century.
Thank you very much. My name is William Ruto, just for the record.
And I shall apologize.
Let me pick up from where President Kagame left. And he couldn't have put it better by saying that the issue is not so much what the problem is or what the solutions are. The issue is we know the problem, and we have a good account of what the solution could possibly be. Standing between the problem and the solution is a critical entity called leaders. People who need to bridge, to create a bridge between the problem and where we want to go. The present and the Africa that we want. Leaders. I will squarely say that those of us who have been given or have been entrusted with the responsibility to lead must match what we say with what we do. That is what will make the difference. Let me give you a very practical example. The last elections in Kenya, the president and myself went on a slogan, kusema na kutenda, meaning to walk the talk or to match what we say with what we do. That is what Kenyans bought into. And therefore, for us as a continent, and I have listened carefully to very eminent persons who've spoken here, we have what it takes. We know where we want to go. We know how to get there. Standing between us and where we want to go is decisive, bold, pragmatic decisions that will take leaders to make. Even to move society, assuming that society is part of our challenge, it will take leaders to inspire society, to make sure society sees what the future holds for all of us. And therefore, I am a very proud African, and I am confident. And looking around, and I have been, in the last 1 year or so, I have been to various meetings around this continent. I see a lot of prepared African leaders, people who are prepared to make the critical decisions that will take us to the Africa we want. Let me give you an example. In the last 1 year, as East Africans, we have made decisions that has taken 50 years for them to be made. In the last 1 year, we have made a decision, for example, that we must bring down the barriers. And instead of having borders that act as roadblocks, we should get borders that act as bridges. That is why I didn't need a passport to come from Kenya to Rwanda. I just needed my identification card. I mean, it would have been very difficult to make that decision in the face of all the challenges we have about security and all the rest of it. But on the balance of issues, the good that comes with eliminating the barriers that exist currently as borders far supersedes the negatives that would accompany that decision. That is why the leaders of East Africa made that decision. Let me give you another example. In the last 1 year, jointly with another 5 countries in the East African region, Rwanda included, we have launched the first ever standard gauge railway out of Mombasa to Kampala, to Kigali, to South Sudan. It was done last week. It has taken us 100 years. The railway we are using was built not last century. It was built the century before. Right? And yet, it is absolutely clear to all of us that by having a standard gauge railway, we can reduce the cost of transport by anything up to 70% and make the products that we produce much more competitive, open up markets for our products, and make sure that we create more integration, create more jobs, and create a prosperous region. That is the kind of decisions that need to be made so that we can take this country, this continent and this region to the next level. And I am confident, very confident, as a young leader in this continent, that we are going to make those decisions.
Vice President.
Strangely, this morning, when I left Nairobi, I got an SMS on my phone. Maybe I'll go and check and maybe call that gentleman back. Because the SMS went like this. Mr. Deputy President, my grandfather was a squatter. My father was a squatter. I am a squatter. And my son is likely to be a squatter. What are you going to do about it? This morning. And I think it speaks volumes to the succession you have alluded to. In this sense, as leaders, what kind of continent or nations would we want to hand over to our successors or to the next generation? I think really that is where the bottom line is. And I would dare say that as leaders, it must bother us, and seriously so, that the continent we have inherited, the leadership that maybe has been, you've won, either in an election or whatever other means. How will you, I think the biggest concern is how much difference will you make so that when your time comes up, you have something to hand over to the successor or to the next generation. And let me say this. Looking at the situation that I was confronted with this morning, it took me to where we are as a continent and the magic that a full stomach carries. The threat of hunger in our continent is to a great extent the base of crime. And grinding poverty to a great extent informs the instability and the insecurity that we have. And again, it requires decision makers, people who can make decisions. Because for a very long time, I have been Minister for Agriculture at some point. And you go to some meetings and the discussion is about, smallholder agriculture, peasant farming, this is very good. And the people speaking there are professionals. And you really ask yourself, surely Africa, is Africa going to get out of hunger because of peasant, smallholder farming? I highly doubt. That is why in Kenya, we have rolled out a 1 million acre commercial farming under irrigation to double our food production in the next 10 years, because it is doable and it is practical. And we want to hand over to the next generation of leaders a program that they can pick up and make a bigger difference if they will. And that is what I will be proud of the day it comes when I have to, when we will be handing over to the next generation.
You shared that SMS with us. What was your response?
I was on my way to the airport. That's why I said
pending.
It came into my mind. It is pending. It is in my inbox. I will, because of this discussion.
I hope you'll be willing to share with us.